right, everybody.
This is
On your toes.
Jenny.
I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Park and Recreation Commission meeting for October to order. First order of business, I'd like to ask Jenny Tucker to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll get your chair there. You okay? Okay? Yeah. Roll call, please, Jackie.
Chair Palmer.
Here.
Vice Chair Nigel.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Laura.
Here.
Commissioner Zamatia.
Here.
Youth Commissioner Colone.
Here.
Excused are Commissioners Greenberg, Pierce, and Marshall.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask if everyone's had a chance to read the minutes and ask for approval.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second it.
September 19th.
Approval of the minutes has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That was easy. We'll move on to Part D of our agenda, unfinished business. First order is committee report on the city park pathway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As everybody remembers, this is the item where the resident called in and asked about the pathway around City Park, around the ball fields as it comes down behind the scoreboard, how it then leads into the parking lot. And the committee went out and looked at the situation, developed a plan to redirect the pathway so that it went around the parking lot, moving the parking spaces that were adjacent or that are adjacent to the bullpen out about 4 feet, and having a new split rail fence that matches the other fence right on the other side of the driveway. Having the pedestrians move down safely in that area. Since that, we have taken the recommendation. We have met with the traffic engineer. We met with her on site. Our intern, Dominic Muto, went out and measured the site and provided that information to the traffic engineer. The traffic engineer is now looking at that information and determining that the city does have parking lot specifications. And what really comes down to is how close can the cars be together. So the cars that were adjacent to the bullpen, now that they will be pushed out approximately 4 feet, will they be too close to the cars on the other side? And it deals with the amount of space, the angle of the parking spaces, etc. We hope to hear back from the traffic engineer within the next couple of weeks, and we should have a full report for you at your next meeting.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? None? Okay, we'll look forward to hearing something at December 5?
Yes.
December 5 meeting. Okay, number 2 is our committee report on the swimming pool project.
Yeah. Good evening, Commissioners. As a reminder of the last couple of meetings, we've brought to you guys' attention the current setup of the pool right now with the fence around the pool. It does not meet the standards of the health department right now. We currently have a set of bleachers where spectators and visitors to the pool can sit and watch their children during swim lessons. On the other side, the bleachers are located on the other side of the fence. However, we have to block that area off so that it's not an area that children can climb over during our closed hours. So we've been presented with some options to increase our space on the deck for seating, spectators during our recreation time, and swim lessons. And most of these that we're presenting to you have been approved and would be approved by our health department. So I'm going to pass it over to Dominic, our intern, who will present with you guys some ideas that we've come up with and we've discussed at our last meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm going to present to you tonight some options for the city park pool improvements. starting out with option 1, we have decided that putting 6 different benches along the pool deck, 4 which would run across the north side and 2 which would run across the south side. Each bench is approximately 27 feet and would cost about $500 each. With this, we would also get rid of the bleachers and keep the slats along the fence. So therefore, there'd be no issue with anyone, being able to jump over or anything like that. For this project, it'll cost approximately $3,000 for this option. For option 2, we would keep the bleachers and we would put a windscreen in front of the bleachers, which would still allow viewing. And instead of putting 6 benches, we would only put 4, 2 along the north side and 2 along the west side. The windscreen would only cost about $200, and which would make this project cost approximately $2,200. In option 3, excuse me, we would keep the bleachers where they are and have the windscreen. We would include 2 benches on the west side, and on the right side, on the north, we would of the bleachers, we would move the fence back 20 feet, giving us a grass area dimension of 20 feet by 45 feet, which just allows for more leisure area and for more viewing area also. With the increased fence, would cost approximately, or with the whole project itself, would cost approximately $3,500 with the inclusion of the new fence, which is about $2,300. In option 4, we would move the bleachers back a little bit after we move the fence back approximately 20 feet. This would give us dimensions of 20 feet by 67 feet. And the bleachers would be right up against the back wall of the fence. So that would give you room in front of the bleachers and grass area off to the right of the bleachers on the north end. This fence would cost us approximately $2,800. Moving on to option 5, which is very similar to option 4, we would, same thing, increase the fence, so 20 feet back by 67 feet, and the bleachers would again be against the back wall. And then we would add an additional 2 benches along the west side, which would be 27 feet. With the addition to the benches, it would the cost of this would cost approximately $3,800. Option 6 would be very similar to option 4, and it would increase the fence. Instead of going back 20 feet, you would only go back about 15 feet, and the bleachers would stay where they are, but they would be right up against the fence. So it would give us just a smaller lawn area. This would cost approximately $2,600. And our last option, option 7, would be very similar to option 5, but again would have a shorter fence along the north side. So it would be 15 feet out. The bleachers would be against the fence, so it would be 15 feet by 67 feet. And then we would add 2 additional benches on the west side, which would both be 27 feet. With the addition of the benches, the total cost would come to about $3,600. And that is all of the options.
So if I can summarize this a little bit. This was done because when the committee met and they looked at all the various options, moving the fence, adding the interior benches, etc., we played with some of the options that are there. And as you can see, Dominic and Jenny did a fantastic job of pulling all the different variations together, and we do applaud them for their efforts. Essentially what we're looking at is, do we have going back to the first one, just contain everything within the existing fence line? And I point out, as Dominic mentioned, none of these costs are relatively expensive. everything is under $4,000. Most of them can even be under $3,000. The first option really is just interior benches, which is what one of the options that the committee looked at, and eliminating the bleachers altogether. That would take care of the health department's concerns about people climbing up on the fence, just slatting the fence all the way around. After that, what we start getting into and getting creative is adding space, adding lawn space so that people can go out there with blankets, throw towels out on the grass. We would take the area under the bleachers in these options where the bleachers are fully inside the fence line. We would make that as some type of a hard path so the guys aren't trying to maintain the lawn under the bleachers. You're not going to be successful. But the rest of the space, leaving it as lawn area for kids to go out or parents to go out while you're watching your kids in swim lessons or in rec swim, and just setting up as lawn seating out there. That can be done as is, or it can be done with interior benches as well, and that's why the cost for that option is another $1,000 because of the 2 benches on the west side. Here it shows 20 feet. We would push the bleachers back. There would be a little bit of lawn space in front of the bleachers. This option here, you wouldn't have the extra lawn space. You just have the bleachers before the wall of the pool, and then you'd have the open space to the side. So what we're looking for tonight is commissioner feedback. Which of these options do you like? Do you like the interior benches? Do you like the idea of the lawn seating? And with that information, we would take it and we would start looking at funding options, which we have not done yet. We did discuss asking for some assistance from the church group next March that was looking at doing a community service project, and maybe they can even help us with some of the fencing or the bench work that would be needed out there. But really what we're looking for from the commission tonight is just feedback. Which parts of the proposals do you like? Where do we move ahead?
Okay, thanks, Randy. I think before I ask the commissioners for their opinions, I'd like to say thanks to both Jenny and Dominic for bringing back the information that we asked for. We asked for costs, and that's exactly what was presented here, along with a number of options. And so thanks a lot for that. Commissioners, who has questions?
Sure.
Yes. Lucy?
I mean, if money's not an option, I don't know why we wouldn't go for getting the most area. I think the lawn area would be great. I think people would love that. So I would go with, I think that was number 5, and then do the benches. If money's not an option, I think we should just go for it. My question is, though, how are you going to charge parents to come in now? Or, because before, you know, they were outside. So someone could say, I'm going to come in and just sit and watch, and then they can go in the pool. How are you going to, that's not going to be easy, I wouldn't think now.
I think it wouldn't change too much. Most of the time, anyone under 10 years old has to be accompanied by a paying adult. So if people currently, if people said that they weren't going to be in the water swimming, it's still an admission fee of $3 for adult or children. If their children were over 10 years old, they had the choice to sit on the outside of the bleachers. But if their children were under 10, they still had to pay anyways. So actually, I think this will be more of an option. Now they'll have spaces to sit instead of on the cement.
So will people that used to sit on the bench now will have to pay $3 to come in, though?
If they choose to come in. But not many people do that. I think about it. I mean, if they're over 10, most of them, the children get dropped off. And if they're
Right.
under 10, their parents have to be there
I don't
anyway.
see a lot of people on the benches, but
Yeah,
I would
and that-
totally go for that option. I think we should get the most, I think the lawn area would be great. I think people would love that.
Yeah. And I think most of the time the parents were on the bleachers were crowded were during swim lesson times.
Mm-hmm.
We would not charge during swim lessons. They've already paid that admission fee during swim
Oh, okay.
lessons. That's most of the time that the benches were full.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Laura?
Yeah, through the chair. So you would gain access to that area 20 feet by 67 feet on the outside, a gate on the outside.
through the front door still. That gate we have a gate there right now, but it's an emergency gate. So they would still come through the front entranceway.
Through the front entranceway to gain access
Yes.
to that. Isn't that raised up? Isn't that above ground on that end?
Right in front of the bleachers, you see that little gray area? That's a little bit of cement. But the it's flush up against where that
Okay.
grass area is
Okay.
for the majority of it. Yeah, so they wouldn't have to step up or anything.
Yeah, through the entire presentation, I was constantly really focused on swim lessons, and that's my biggest concern is because of, the kids who aren't in swim lessons to gain access and kind of have a space that's safe and secure, and they should be, so I really like the one sort of designated area over to the side that lets parents as well as their younger siblings sit versus surrounding all the way around.
Yeah, and the option with the benches on the,
Which is
Others.
this option?
Yes,
Yeah.
number 5.
because some of the swim lessons are in the deep end, so those benches would have the option for parents to be able to watch their children in
Right,
the deeper end.
right,
So
right.
they wouldn't all be concentrated right there, but
Correct.
it'd be a good space.
Majority of the families will be on that,
Yeah.
on the north side versus the west side.
Laura, you done?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Nigel?
To the chair, I want to reiterate the good job, Jenny and Dominic. Very fine work. I like what Lucy said. Was that option 5, I think it was. And I like it because it gives the parents the option to staying outside on the grass. That also relieves the congestion on the deck. So, and gives an option to the parents as well to be in or out. And I used to sit on that when my kids were taking lessons, and I really enjoyed it from that spot. But let's remember the main purpose of this was to meet the needs of the health department, and this addresses that, and that's why I'm supporting this option.
Nothing?
Any comments? No.
I agree with what Lucy and the previous commissioners have said. I like option 5 the best because it extends the area. You have lawn space for the children to run around versus option 1, which is just, it's too crowded. I mean, there's already guard stands out there. There's, especially during swim lessons, the parents come out and everyone's running around on the deck. So I like this option the best because it gives you the most space. You have lawn area, you have bleachers, everything's there, and it extends it. I mean, you have plenty of space on the pool deck now.
To the chair, one of the things that what I'm concerned about is that we can take a look at this and choose, but what is the opinion of the people that are running the pool? What is your outlook on it? What do you need? That's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I mean, I agree with what most of you guys have been saying, the commissioners. I think a good point being that we had first addressed the need of the health department, but while we were doing that anyway, being able to extend the deck and get a positive outcome out of the whole thing, I think people in the community are really going to appreciate having more space. So I'm in agreement with you guys. I think option 5 would be the best option for the pool.
Okay. Well, now that Commissioner Lara has stolen my comment, I want to thank you for that. I think, and I agree with the comments that have made previously, anytime you can gain that much more space, and 20 feet by 67 feet doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're talking about people going to sit there and taking it easy, and even a place where now the instructors could put everybody to talk to them and do things like that. I think it's a relatively I think it's a relatively cheap cost for attaining all of the goals that we set out to do, which was, mainly to honor the health department's wishes. So I'd be inclined to agree with what my fellow commissioners have said, and option 5 looks to be a viable. Commissioner?
Just for my own clarification, I know you just told us, Randy, but I want to be sure. What's the next step? Does it go back to our committee, or does staff take it from here?
Staff's going to take it from here and start seeing what we can do about some funding options. Commissioner Zamatia did bring up, first of all, if money was no object, and even though the costs are relatively low, we will need to go out and find some funds for this. One thing with option 5, and I'll flip back on the screen, here is option 4. It's essentially the same thing between the two, except for the 2 interior benches. and having the extra 54 feet of benches in there is another $1,000. That can be done at any time. It does not have to be done at the same time. So we can go in with the $3,000 option first, or the $2,800 option first, at option 4, and if that's all the money that's available, and at some point add the extra 2 benches. But I think it really comes down to staff going out, seeing where there is money available, again talking to the church group and seeing if maybe some of the fence work can be done through volunteerism, through one of their work project days, rather than through a contractor, which would save a couple $1,000s and make this project just happen that much easier. As the pool is not going to be open until the start of summer next year anyway, we have lots of time. We will definitely be coming back to you a couple of more times with progress reports before any work is accomplished.
Okay, thanks, Randy. And that was going to be what I was going to recommend, that we keep it tabled and have a follow-up at our December 5 meeting. Okay? Alrighty. It's moving on under unfinished business. Item 3, the community recognition policy. Randy?
Thank you, and hopefully you can bear with me because there were so many, as we talked about at our last meeting, there were so many different variables and items to address here. This is a little bit of a lengthy presentation, but I'm going to try and go through it as smoothly as I can. And at any point, if you want to stop me and ask a question, please do so. But the presentation tonight is going to give a brief history of the Memorial Recognition Policy, the types of service to be recognized, as well as the types of recognition. I will also discuss the associated fees and costs, the potential for naming recognition, we will talk about a recommended process, and then at the end, I'm going to come back and I will summarize the points that I'm asking the commissioners to make decisions on or to take any action on. So throughout the presentation, I will come back with a summary before I ask for any action from the commission. On October 10th, staff did review all of this information with the commission's committee, and that included Commissioner Lara, Commissioner Davis, both of whom are here tonight, as well as Commissioner Pierce, who's unable to be here tonight. Commissioner Greenberg is part of the committee, and she was not able to be at the meeting. She did review the policy, and I will include her feedback when I get to that portion of the presentation. The history of this project is that in January of 2009, the City Council adopted a memorial recognition policy. And the idea of it was to honor individuals or groups who have served the community. The council then commissioned a recognition sculpture that was dedicated in San Bruno Park this past June. To begin the recognition program, staff is recommending the city make some revisions to the original policy, to the 2009 policy, in order to clarify the types of recognition and the process to be used for the various levels. Staff is also recommending an amendment to the master fee schedule to include the cost of the recognition plaques. So the types of service that are being recognized, there's really 2 types for the community. One of those are monetary donations, and one of those are types of service. And each of those have 2 types. The monetary donations are broken down into what we're calling the personal tributes, as well as the one-time donations. The personal tributes were not clearly defined in the original 2009 policy, and that was one of the reasons why staff started on the process to review and to revise the entire policy. Many residents wish to donate a plaque, a tree, a bench, in memory of a loved one. Possibly in honor of somebody's great achievement, possibly in memory of someone. This policy, the proposed policy before you tonight, does allow for such gifts, but the plaque if it's a donated tree or bench, would not be placed next to the tree or on the bench. It would be placed on the sculpture that's now in City Park. And I will be showing some slides and dimensions in a few minutes about how that would look on the sculpture, how many we can fit, etc. Some of the questions that came up during the committee's review. Staff is recommending, and with the committee's agreement, that the personal tribute inscriptions be restricted to ensure that the language is appropriate for public viewing, and that the inscriptions would only include the name of the person to be recognized, the date, and a standard listing of the text. And you have examples in your staff report. But examples of inscriptions would be in honor of John Smith and then the date. Something plain and simple. Another one could be in memory of Jane Smith. If a person donated one of the items, if the inscription could read, "A tree was planted in honor of Jane Smith," and then the date, or bench was donated in memory of John Smith, and then the date. And the idea is by keeping these basic templates, that we do not stray into areas that maybe are not comfortable for the public, that are thought to be less appropriate to be placed on the city's recognition sculpture. The other type of monetary donations that were discussed were the very large donations for one-time capital improvement projects. In some instances, an individual or an organization may wish to contribute monetarily towards a new or a renovated city facility. Staff recommends that these be considered by the City Council on a case-by-case basis rather than a blanket policy, since these types of donations, the size of the donation and the size of the project will differ considerably from project to project. An example of this could be the city's considering a restroom snack shack building by Lions Field. A family could come forward and say, "We will donate all of the funds to you," or 50% of the funds, and we are estimating this to be $200,000-300,000 project. If somebody came forward and said, "We will donate the full $300,000, but we would like it to be named after our family, the so-and-so snack shack," the City Council may wish to do that. They may come in at $5,000 or $10,000. And rather than saying a certain percentage or a certain dollar value, what staff is recommending is that those types of naming recognitions be considered by the City Council on a case-by-case basis. Moving into the areas of service recognition, as I mentioned that there are two types of service. One we are calling special service, the other extraordinary service. Special service is identified by someone who contributed at least 15 years of dedicated service to the community that had a positive impact on the residents. The individual must be viewed as an appropriate role model who developed new programs or facilities or provided the leadership to enhance existing programs or existing facilities. Extraordinary service is defined by someone who gave at least 25 years of dedicated service, again with a positive impact. The individual still having been viewed as an appropriate role model, and someone who developed new programs or facilities or provided the leadership to enhance existing programs or facilities. Another difference is for extraordinary service, the individual or organization must have been actively involved in multiple community programs and influence the lives of many San Bruno citizens, far greater number than for the special service at 15 years. And I will come back and summarize those because I know all of those are done a little bit quickly, and I know they're in the policy, but it's hard to follow, so I will come back and help summarize those in a few minutes. Moving on to the types of recognition, the personal tributes would be limited to a 3x3 plaque to accommodate the large number of requests that may come in over the years. The special service recognition plaques would be 4 inches by 6 inches, and the extraordinary service plaques would be 5 inches by 7 inches. The handouts that you have in front of you show the types of service, and those are also shown here on this slide. And as you can see on the top left-hand corner, the yellow ones that are there, those are what we're calling the personal tributes. Those are the 3x3s. And the top layer, the top half of the slide, shows the personal tributes. There are 42 personal tribute plaques that are listed there, 6 across, 7 high. And as you can see in the farther view version, all we did is we placed those at the optimum viewing level. But there is still plenty of room to go above and below a couple of rows without getting down near the ground or so high that an individual could not read the name of the person to be honored. Therefore, as we met with the committee, one of the questions was, how many can we get in total on one of the pillars? Remembering that these pillars are 3-sided, and the idea is we can easily get 160, 180, 60 on one side of one pillar, and maybe 180 total, so that if we said that one of the pillars, at least originally, is set aside for the personal tributes, at least one of the pillars originally is set aside for the special recognition, and another one set aside for the extraordinary recognition, or for the victims of the Crestmore explosion. That plaque was already put on this past September 9th, so that one has the 8. But that still gives us at least 180 for the personal recognition. As you can see there, there's over 20 for the special service. There's 6 that are listed there for the extraordinary service. And we stopped right there thinking that there aren't going to be too many extraordinary service. This slide here, and also there's a better example in your packet. This was put in just to show the difference in the size of plaques. So that are they about the same? And saying 3x3 or 4x6 or 5x7, it sounds like they are very similar in size. But when you see them in this type of a view, you can see that there is a greater difference between the sizes, and therefore different sizes or different sizes for the recognition that the person has contributed. Pointing out again that the 4x6s, and I will go into that, but the 4x6s and the 5x7s will have the city logo on them, where the 3x3 personal tributes will not. The person who contributed 15 years or 25 years of service to the city, they would have the city logo embedded in that plaque. The personal tribute, just honoring a loved one, would just have the plain inscription. The other type of recognition that is described in the policy is the naming of a facility component. And this is considered the highest form of recognition and would be bestowed on only a few of those receiving the extraordinary service to the community. So even though somebody is awarded the extraordinary service, that does not mean that there is a facility to be named after them. That would be above and beyond. So we think only in a few of those at the extraordinary level would be looking at having facility components. And why do I say facility components? The current policy states that every effort shall be made to provide names for parks or facilities that identify a geographical location so as to promote an understandable and recognizable reference for people in the community. Staff is recommending that that policy be continued and that the naming for individuals or organizations be limited to a component of the facility. People should be able to intuitively understand where the park is, where the library is. And any of those facilities that are named at this point, the name is a little bit more intuitive in that vein. Examples that we already have within the city, we have some that follow this same pattern. We have Lara Field in City Park. City Park is the facility, the component being Lara Field, the diamond, the one ball diamond within the park. We also have Greenberg Field in Commodore Park. Commodore Park near Commodore Drive, more intuitive for somebody to find the park in general. The recognition being Greenberg Field is again the component of it. We also have examples of this within the city that are existing in terms of recognizing organizations. We have Rotary Pavilion in City Park. We also have Lions Field in Bel Air Park. So again, the facility keeps the name, but the component named for the organization in this case. The policy also states that if naming a facility component is being considered, the individual or organization must have a clear connection to that facility component being named, and that individuals considered for this recognition must have been deceased for at least 1 year. When we reviewed this last piece with the committee, Commissioners Davis, Lara, and Pierce stated that persons living or deceased should be eligible for recognition of the personal tributes or the plaques for special or extraordinary service. But only someone who has been deceased for 1 year should be eligible to have a facility component named after them. The committee's interest here is to remove the emotional portion of the decision regarding someone who recently passes away and to better understand their full character and their impact upon the community. Commissioner Greenberg, as I mentioned, was part of this committee and therefore was given all of the information ahead of time, but she was unable to make it to the committee meeting. Her input matches that of the other commissioners for the personal tribute recognition, the special service and extraordinary service, but she does differ in her views on the facility naming. And she would like to see living persons also be eligible to receive recognition in the form of naming a facility component. Now I'm going to come back to all of that again in a couple minutes, and I'll summarize it briefly in a minute, but I do want to also move forward to the associated costs. And this is the piece that we would be asking for in a little while. We will be asking the commission to make a recommendation to the city council. The city council action has to be to amend the master fee schedule. Right now, there are not fees listed in the master fee schedule for any of the plaques to be put onto the sculpture. So the recommended prices for the various size plaques are shown in your staff report. And these fees include the cost of the plaque itself, the staff time to review the applications and to install the plaque, and also to do the basic maintenance of the plaque over the years. So staff is recommending that the personal tribute, the 3x3 plaques, cost $400. The special recognition plaques, the 4x6s, be $500, and the 5x7 plaques for extraordinary service be $600. Staff also recommends that all of the costs to the recognition be borne by the nominating organizations unless otherwise specified by the City Council. If the City Council chooses to name a facility component after an individual or organization, staff recommends that the cost of the appropriate signage also be borne by the nominating organizations. Example here would be somebody gives service to a nonprofit organization or to one of the school groups and worked for 15 years as a PTA board member or a president of one of the youth sports associations. And that organization wishes to recognize the individual. That organization received the benefit of their service. We do not think a $400 or $300 or $500 fee be too much to ask for the service they've received. And therefore, we're asking it to come from the organization rather than from the city's general fund. In terms of a screening process to accept and approve the recognition, no screening process of the personal tribute plaques is considered necessary if the standard language is adopted. If we go by just the template language, then we do not feel, the staff nor the committee felt that there needed to be an additional screening process. The Special Service Awards require nomination from at least one San Bruno organization. And the policy calls for Extraordinary Service Awards to have nominations from at least 2 different San Bruno organizations. For either the Special Service or the Extraordinary Service recognition, it is recommended that the city form a committee comprised of 6 members. The 6 members would be 2 from each of the city's 3 commissions: the Park and Rec Commission, the Planning Commission, and the Culture and Arts Commission. Those 6 members would meet annually to review any applications that may have been submitted since the last review. The committee would work with staff to gather input from other committees, boards, commissions, or recognized organizations that may have worked with the individuals. And 5 affirmative votes would be required to make a recommendation to the City Council. The City Council would then have the final action, and a majority vote from the City Council would be needed to give the final recognition for the special or the extraordinary service. So that's the end of the presentation. We have gone over lots of different things, and I'm happy to take all kinds of questions and go back and clarify other points. We talked briefly about the history, the types of service to be recognized, the types of recognition to be awarded, the costs, the potential naming recognitions, and the process. And we are now asking for your input on the following points. Are the recommended plaques, and Mr. Chair, I would say, let me do this quick summary, and then I will let you decide if you want to take each of these one by one, or if you want to take them more as a group. So what we're asking for input on is, are the recommended plaque sizes and prices appropriate? Is the service recognition process acceptable? The review process? Should the policy be continued that only facility components be eligible for naming? Can service recognition be bestowed upon a living person? should the recognition of a facility component be reserved for those who have been deceased for at least 1 year? And finally, we will need a motion from the commission on a recommendation to amend the master fee schedule to include the plaque fees. But we would first want discussion from the commissioners about, are those fees appropriate?
Okay, you're right, that was a lot.
That's a lot.
That was a lot to throw at the poor old Park and Rec Commission. And I object, I mean.
Through the chair,
tell-
I'd like
tell
to
me-
recommend we go through this one at a time.
Right, and I would agree to that. I would like to, unless anybody objects, I think we'd like to go through those one at a time.
Through the chair,
Commissioner?
I would request that the commissioners have a chance to respond to some of these things before, because we might have things to say
Oh,
that would
absolutely.
influence each other.
Right, and that's why I think it's important to go through them one at a time.
So how about if I just read the topic first?
Yeah.
And then allow for discussion to happen?
But I would like to say a few things before we even do that.
Okay.
First, may I?
Yeah, sure.
First of all, this is a fantastic document. I've been on this commission for a significant amount of time, and we've had pieces of this, and we never really had something. I want to commend the staff and whoever worked on this. This is fantastic. I read it 5 times. I went through it, and I agree with everything except one thing that I'll bring up when we get to that topic.
Okay.
But this is absolutely fabulous. And the other thing I want to ask, and maybe I'm, naive or something, but do we still continue with our community service plaque that the commission awards each year? Is that incorporated or is that separate?
That we would still view as a separate recognition from the commissioners to the individuals who are participating in parks, recreation, other related activities. If the commissioners wanted to move forward and look at some other type of tribute or recommend that type of tribute to the organization of the individual that you're talking about, that would be done separately. But the same perpetual plaque that is in the recreation center, as well as the individual awards to the honoree, those we would see being continued.
And the last thing I want to say, when I was a young teacher at Allen School, I remember Mr. Grundy and all the May Day dances we had in the park. It was a big deal here in this city. And he was recognized. Mr. Posey was recognized. And you mentioned the other ones. So the number of plaques that are recommended, I think, are appropriate and well done.
Okay, thank you. Randy, I'll turn it over to you, and let's go through those one at a time.
Okay, so the first item that we're asking for discussion on is, are the recommended plaque sizes and prices appropriate? So just the sizes first of all. The 3x3 for the personal tribute, the 4x6 for the special service, and the 5x7 for the extraordinary service. And I'm showing them to you on the screen here, and we can also look at them on the sculpture as well, so your choice, and I'll leave it up to you.
Okay, thank you. I open it to my fellow commissioners for comments, and Commissioner Davis, I know you have one.
Thank you, Chair Palmer. I struggle with this because, this is something that is going to be permanent, and it's something we're trying to recognize. And so I think, when you look at somebody who's donated 25 years or more, is the size appropriate? I like that size. I think you can get a lot of information on there. It's very substantial. I think it's a good size. The 4x6 size for the next level, it works. I could see pretty legible if I was to write somebody's name on there, and I'm thinking about not the short, simple name, but somebody with long letters. But the size I'm struggling with is really the personal tribute, the 3x3. It's so small, and I would like to actually see the font and how that would read on there. If I write across the top, a bench was donated, is it going to be an 8-point font, 9-point font, in order to get all that on a 3x3. Does a 3x4 make better sense to get a little bit more, even though it's a few less squares, but someone's going to pay $400 to, or somewhere in that area to recognize somebody. I don't know that we're going to have a ton of requests in the next 10 years, 5 years. So I'm okay with the 4x6, the 5x7, but I think the 3x3 is too small.
Okay, thank you. Lucy?
My only comment would be, I agree, the 3x3 is really tiny. I guess it's like a little Post-it, so it's pretty tiny. I'm thinking the prices are kind of high, so that would be my comment. I feel that the $400 for the 3x3 is pretty pricey. I kind of looked on other websites for other recs, and I couldn't find. I don't know. I know the only thing I could find is South City that you can donate a tree for $200. That's the only thing I could find. I couldn't find plaques, or I don't know if I don't know if you guys have looked. I'm sure you have, but I would kind of like to know how much other cities charge for that. I see where you're coming at that price, and I get that, but it just seemed a little pricey to me for the personal tribute. I just think if somebody wants to do that, it's going to be a lot for them to spend.
Excuse me, not to interrupt, but we'll just go through and talk about only sizes, and then we'll come back around. Is that am I not clear?
I think that the point that Randy made was the size compared to the price. So I'd like to incorporate that.
Okay.
Okay, and so, and then also I wanted to find out, I know you, like if you donate a tree and then you say, this tree has been donated on the plaque, then do you pay for the tree on top of the $400? I was just wondering, the pricing to me seems a little high. That's my only comment.
And I will come back to the tree issue in a minute.
Okay, Commissioner Nigel?
I agree with my two colleagues. I have trouble with the 3x3 and the price for $400. The other two, I'm fine, but I do know I wanted to donate a tree at Outdoor Ed at the YMCA camp in La Honda, and that was $2,500. And so when you put it in perspective, I think our prices are very good, with the exception of the 3x3. I would like to see a comparison, like Laura said, of the 3x3 and the 3x4 or whatever, 4x4, whatever it's going to be, so we can actually see something printed on it.
If I may?
Sure.
Sure. As we're having a discussion, I try to quickly edit this to help out a little bit. So this is the best I came up with in a very quick time frame. So that would be on a 3x3, and I was using Times Roman and a 20-point font. 12 is kind of standard text, so this was a 20-point font. So if it helps you figure out that your staff reports are done in 12, and maybe I can do this very quickly. This is 12-point font here, so that's what your staff report looks like. This is the 20-point font or the 24-point font. So that's 20-point font there, just to give you a comparison of how it would look on the sculpture.
Thank you very much.
So,
Okay, thanks, Randy.
through the chair.
Yes, sir.
What is the verbiage? I mean, is it going to be the person's name, what they've done, who's sponsoring? What are you thinking about? Or if you're not ready, I can wait till next time.
Commissioner Nigel, I believe you look at the bottom of your page, and these are recommendations for standard verbiage on a personal
right.
tribute plaque.
Thank you.
No problem.
That does it.
One of the concerns, and Commissioner Nigel, first of all, thank you for the very kind opening remarks at the beginning about, because this is one of the most difficult staff reports we've had to put together, just because of the complexity of the different issues and all the different situations that could occur over the next 30, 40 years that this policy is in existence. And it's one of those where staff changed the policy at least half a dozen times, department staff, then we took it to the department head group, and more changes were made to it, and it went on and on and on. But some of the things in this area in terms of personal tribute, what if somebody was to put up a personal tribute that said, "Happy birthday to my dog Sparky"? Is that acceptable? Is that something that we want on the sculpture? Maybe we do and maybe we don't. I can see something that says, "Congratulations to Tom Lara on being president of the Lions Club as he was last year." That would be an honorable thing. What if it was to a club that was, let's say, less politically correct? Still a legal 501c3 organization, but maybe not one that garnered as much community support as another. And somebody from that organization said, "No, I'm putting up my own personal tribute. Here's the money, but I want to put the name of our organization up there in really big letters." And everybody else coming by says, "You know what? That's not appropriate to have on our sculpture." The idea came from the city attorney, who had done this in previous areas. She said, "What about doing a template? So here are some fixed words. The person's name goes in, but they don't get to stray too far so that as not to offend people that may come back and see this." And I'm sure we can all think of names of organizations that maybe we would not want to publicize, and I don't need to give those out. But that was the concept that went forward.
Through the chair. Commissioner Nigel?
If we all look on page 4 of the report, under nomination and selection procedures, I really like that with the representation that you described. But I don't see, I think they're the ones that will take care of that in honor of my dog or whatever. But would they develop, and maybe it's here and I didn't see it, would they develop some policy and bylaws or requirements? Where does that come from?
See, we're looking at personal tributes as not having to have somebody approve it. The special service or the extraordinary service, those would be judged first by the commission, the 6 commissioners, and then by the city council. They'd be screened. But we were looking at the personal tributes as something that is not screened. I wish to honor my wife, or I want to remember my grandparent. I can do that by just paying the money and having that put up there. And to answer Commissioner Zamatia's question, if I want to donate a tree and I want the recognition of my grandparent, I would pay the cost of the 3x3, and then I would also pay the cost of the tree, which is already listed in the master fee schedule. So that would be the additional cost. If I want just the plaque, I can pay for just the plaque and have that placed on the sculpture. So I hope that clarifies that portion of it.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Lara?
I would like to say this. I've been through this. I've read this almost as many times as Dave Nigel has. And I discussed this with myself, and I really come to the conclusion this is a great tribute that the city is doing, offering the people in San Bruno. I think the recognition is recognized. We know a lot of people deserve it. And you're going to need a guideline to separate the people, because there are going to be a lot of people demanding. They don't ask today, they demand. And we're going to have something to guide ourselves. And the guidelines here looks real good. I checked it, I questioned it. The only one I question is the year that a deceased person before he can be nominated. But that's something we have to abide by. If that's what is going to control the situation, then we should adopt this.
Okay, thank you. Claudia, did you have any comments?
Yes, great job on the report. Again, it's practically flawless. But like they said earlier, I think that the personal tribute one, it's high, especially if it's going to be coming from a family or a group like family members. And maybe an alternate suggestion that I know the price is going to stay the same, but if it was possible to tack it on to the, like cut it in half or something and tack it on to the extraordinary service or the special service, because I feel that people or organizations would pay more for those to honor those people who've dedicated 15 or 25 years to the city versus a personal tribute.
Okay, and I just have two comments on this subject. First of all, I'd like to echo the comments of Commissioners Nigel and Lara. I think it was a fantastic job by the city staff to really pull together a lot of loose ends and things that have not had a place in writing within the city. So I think that was a fantastic idea, and the report is excellent. Regarding the size and the cost, I actually don't have a problem with it. I believe that if individuals or groups feel strongly enough about their nominations, that money's not going to be an object for them, and that they'll come up with whatever funding they need. So I do agree with my fellow commissioners as far as the size of the personal tribute. 3x4 seems to be okay, but I don't know that that's a deal breaker. Okay. Commissioner Laura, do you have anything?
I did that as well. In terms of, I didn't comment originally on the cost, but I
Right.
agree. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, you want to make sure you're covering your costs for the plaque. That's, you know, a good percentage of what those numbers are. And
Well, I just feel that if folks feel strongly enough about making a recommendation, somehow they'll get it
Yeah,
done.
I agree.
And alluding to a point that Randy made earlier, this is not just the installation and the creation of the plaque, but this is for maintenance for it. And I don't know what kind of maintenance, you know, I'm sure that they need to be cleaned. It's bronze, it'll weather. So that's going to happen for the length of, or however long it's here. I mean, a lot longer than all of us will be, that's for sure. So, but I don't, I believe that if somebody feels strongly enough about making a nomination, or a group, that somehow they'll find the funding for it, and no matter what the size. Lucy?
Through the chair, I don't agree. I agree organizations can pay the $500 or $600. Organizations have money. The personal tribute is different. That's going to be like me giving something for my grandparents or my parents. I think $400 is steep for an individual. I mean, organizations, totally different story. I still would like to know how much it costs in other cities, or if they have, you know, just to get an idea. I don't know if other cities do. I looked and I couldn't find anything, and I should have called, but I didn't. So I would prefer to find out. It seems steep. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just cheap. I don't know, but it just seems a little bit high to me for an individual. Totally agree on the organization. $500, $600, that's nothing to them. And really, I mean, I'm not, like a 3x3, if you're going to compare it, I don't even know how the prices just went up $100 when the other ones are much bigger, like, than the 3x3. If, you know, I mean, that's just my opinion. So, but I would like to know how much they cost in other cities, or if they even have them in other cities. I know they do, I couldn't find them, so.
through the chair, what was the cost when personal tributes were on benches? I mean, if you go through San Bruno Park, there are, you know, number of benches with plaques on them. There was a fee for that at some point, and I want to say it was close to, I thought, $500.
It is. It's the purchase of the bench as well as the plaque.
Okay.
And the benches are expensive.
Right.
The
So that's
benches
why it was $500.
Yeah. Correct. Plus the bronze plaque.
Randy, did
And
you
the
want to
plaques
respond
on the
first?
benches are also much smaller than the 3x3s. They don't have the large one, they've just got the small ones on top. The cost of the I would say about 2x4, yeah. I think they're roughly 2x4. the cost of the material is about $210 for the 3x3. But if I can raise a question just based on the discussion going on, and maybe there is a little bit of wiggle room in there, which is hard to say at this point of the night. And maybe if I can go back to Commissioner Zamatia's point about the plaque as well as a tree, or the plaque as well as a bench. And maybe there could be a slight reduction if somebody's doing both of them, because I see the point of the personal tribute. If somebody's also donating a tree, which I believe is $210, but don't quote me on that one because I do have to go back and look at those. That might include permits and things. Jackie, do you? Well, I don't think we have it with us, but we can go back and look. Maybe it can be slightly less if somebody's donating a tree to the city as well as the plaque versus just the plaque alone with no bench or no tree. And I'd be interested in commissioner feedback on that point as well. Thoughts?
Well, I think that's a great idea. If they're being combined, whether it's a bench and a plaque or a tree and a plaque or whatever it might be, I think that offering some kind of a discount is a good idea. Any other comments?
And to the chair, these prices will be recommended to council for approval, but they'll be reviewed on an annual basis.
They will be reviewed on an annual basis, and it is going to council next Tuesday with all of your comments. So we do not need consensus. We will be talking to them about how some commissioners felt and how other commissioners felt. So all of the feedback is going forward, so I appreciate all of that. We will also try and find prices of other similar things so that when it goes to the council, we can give those as recommendation, saying that the commission thought that was important to do a comparison. So we will try and find that information before we go to the council meeting.
So you don't need a vote on this.
On this, just feedback is enough.
Okay.
And we will take it back to council on all these points.
Okay.
Where we will need the motion is on whatever we do with the, and this is the point of the master fee schedule, we will need a motion on that to make a recommendation. But we will come back to that in a little while.
Okay. Commissioner Nigel?
Just briefly, I was feeling just like Laura and Lucy about, but then when you said the cost to you is $210, did I hear that properly?
It is.
And I was thinking 200, but then we're going to be in negative. Lucy, can I ask you, what would be, and I don't want to put, you don't have to answer it if you, but what would you feel comfortable with? Is there an amount?
I don't know. I don't have a particular amount. It just seemed to me that it was a lot. But I don't know what other places charge. I don't know. I just feel that that's something that people would like to do, you know, and it just seemed a little steep to me. I was thinking it'd be closer to a couple $100s. I see that the material costs a couple $100, so I see where you're coming from, but it just seems to me like a lot of people would like to do that, you know. They've lived in San Bruno forever, and they go through the park, and they just would like that little thing there, and it just seemed a little high to me. So I don't know, maybe that's the going rate. I have no idea. It just seemed a little high to me. And I just feel like there's a lot of people that would probably take advantage of it, but may not because of that.
Okay.
I don't know, I really don't have a price in my head.
Okay. Well, I think everybody's had a chance to
Right.
speak their piece here, and we have several more items to make recommendations on or at least discuss. So let's move on to the next point.
The next bullet point is the review process acceptable for the special service and the extraordinary service? And the review process that we talked about was 2 commissioners from planning, 2 from culture and arts, 2 from park and rec. The 6 total would get together once a year and review any applications that may have come in. At least 5 affirmative votes to recommend the process would go to council, and then a majority of the council for the final recognition to be approved.
Commissioners?
The
Let's
Chair,
start with Commissioner Davis again.
I agree on the recommendation.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that, yeah, I think
Dave?
that's good.
And I'm fine with it as well. So is Commissioner Lara.
Consensus.
Consensus?
Claudia?
Yes.
Okay.
Consensus.
That was an easy one. You know why? There's no cost involved. Next point.
The next point is, should the policy be continued so that only a facility component be eligible for the naming recognition?
So let me ask a question for clarification. What you're saying is the process for naming a component of a city facility, the question to us is whether or not that's acceptable, the process.
So let's take the recreation center. I know it's the Veterans Memorial Recognition, but just for a second, should we say the Mike Palmer Recreation Center?
Yes.
Wow.
Or should we only be saying the Laura Davis Gymnasium within the Recreation Center?
Okay, that clarifies.
Or the
I think that's
Lucy
perfect.
Zamatia Conference Room within, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, well, right away we have a problem, because I like the first one, and I know Laura likes the second one. So.
Disagreement.
But anyways, that clarifies, I think. Commissioner Davis?
Yes, and I'm in agreement with that as well,
Yeah,
with staff recommendation.
I agree.
yeah, and I agree too. Commissioner
Yes.
and Claudia?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're okay with that one, and we're nailing them. We're down to number 4.
Okay.
Okay.
The
Halfway.
fourth one is, can the community service recognition, we're not talking about facility naming, we're talking about the plaques on the sculpture. Can those be named for someone who is both living and for someone who is deceased? So just the plaques up there, can those be given out to a living individual?
Okay, I think that's simple enough, and we'll start with Commissioner Davis.
I agree, they could be both living and deceased.
Tim,
I agree with
Lucy?
both.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, and
I
Claudia?
agree.
Okay,
Consensus.
very good. Randy, next one.
The second to last point here, should the recognition of a facility component be reserved for individuals who have been deceased at least 1 year?
We'll get some discussion on this one, I'm sure. And again, I'll start with Commissioner Davis.
Let's start on that end this
Yeah,
time.
no, you know what? I'm already looking there because Randy's over there. So
It's a tough call, and
Yeah, it is.
it's a very sensitive thing. But there's a lot of emotions that run during an illness of somebody. But I think that naming of a facility, a component of a facility, needs to be done after someone is deceased.
Lucy.
I don't feel that someone has to be deceased. I just feel like we have parks that are named after, or we have components that are named after people that are alive. They've worked very hard. I don't see why someone has to be deceased for that to happen.
Well, I'm very biased because Bob Greenberg and I were the two, along with Quentin Kopp, in naming Laura Field. They were telling us the person had to be deceased. He's still living, thank God. And we agonized over it. This is a tough one. But without being funny, I could live with it. But I prefer that it be living or deceased.
Okay, I'm going to reserve my comments for last. I'm going to go down here to Claudia.
I think that it should be also for living and deceased. Like I said previously, if they worked hard, then they should get the recognition. But I think that the process should be more rigorous, for lack of a better word, to get a component named after them.
Commissioner Lara.
Well, it's something we need. There's always going to be discussions on this. There's always going to be debates about certain things. I know it's common, but we have to have a guideline.
Can I make one more comment before you?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, I think the purpose of naming of a component of a facility is to memorize somebody, is to let their legacy live on. And so the reason why I voted in the way I voted is that a component of that facility, while I'm living, my legacy is living on with what I'm doing in my name. I'm still there. I'm still physically in this place. So that's why I think it's just such a special thing to recognize somebody. And there's only so many components of facilities that we can name in the city that, someone who's given so much to the community, and there are several names, I think of Bob Marshall, who's passed on, and that he's given so much to the community, and I would love to see his legacy live on. And I think that's what it's about. It's a special thing that, if we named this room in the senior center after him, that's what's special about it. And that's why I am so sort of passionate about making that decision. It's a tough decision, and I get it, but I'd like to see their legacy live on and after they've deceased.
Go ahead, Randy.
I just want to make sure that the committee's input is given, especially since there's two members of the committee that are not here tonight. And they did have differing views, and so I want to make sure that we've kind of captured all of those thoughts. And I'm going to do it on both sides of the coin. The thought process behind having someone who is living to be honored in such a way was to have that individual understand, see the joy, know that the contribution that they've made, to be able to, for the other people in the organizations or family members to be with the person while they receive essentially the highest or one of the highest honors that the city has. The joy of that was felt to be, let's allow a living person to experience that. On the other side of the coin, the idea was that this is an honor that's going to live forever. And the recognition, the individual who accomplished those things knew what they did. And they knew of the benefits that they gave to the committee, to the community. And whether or not they were aware of this special facility naming, that piece can be saved for the other people. But one of the points was made about individuals, and not in our community, not the Tom Laras, not the Bob Greenbergs, any of those individuals, but we know of individuals in other portions of our country that have had a facility named after them, or have received special honor, or have been placed in extremely high regard, only to find out a little bit later on that they are not the person of character that we first thought. And the idea of waiting till a year after they passed away not only took the emotion out of it, but also allowed for more time to pass and for people to better understand that the character of the individual after the complete lifespan, rather than just a certain portion of it. So I hope I was fair to both sides of the discussion, and Tom and Laura, if you want to correct anything I've said, not about my viewpoint, but about what was expressed in the committee meetings, that's all I'm trying to get across. Okay?
I would like to
Go ahead,
throw out an-
Commissioner Nigel.
Okay, I already gave my bias regarding Tom, and that was so important to us. Now I want to talk about myself. I taught for 22 years at McKinley School. They, and you know this, they planted a redwood tree in my honor. The school did. If I've been out of there since 1997, nobody knows me anymore. That wouldn't happen a year after I died. But I know I won't be there forever, but redwood trees live between 2,500 and 3,000 years. That's good enough for me.
Okay, I had just one comment, and I agree with Commissioner Davis. This is a tough one. I struggle with this because, as an example, I've known Mr. Lara here since I was 8 years old, and I thought it was fantastic that that the city named the field after him. I thought that was super. I can also appreciate the fact that certain individuals, and to paraphrase what you said, after having a facility or a component or whatever named, 6 months later they're found not to be of the same character. So I just think that it's an awfully tough one, and I think that there needs to be a guideline, and it needs to be that they've been deceased for a year. I'd also like to see, though, some kind of a fallback in case the city feels necessary or feels obligated or has a want or a denomination that if a person is living, they could go back and change it. And that's my only comment.
One more thing. And I'm going to take the other side of the coin now. And my example is O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson went to Galileo High School in San Francisco. He was a hero. And they honored him by naming the stadium after him. After, you know what, the rest of that story. 4 years ago, the school took his name off the stadium. So we have a problem in this document that says once the facility or whatever it is named after a person, it cannot be changed. So maybe that one has to be looked at as well.
So what I'm hearing is that you would still want a living person to be able to be recognized. However, if the person's reputation was tarnished to such a degree, then maybe the naming could be pulled back, could be withdrawn. And I think I'm hearing that from both Chairperson Palmer and Commissioner Nigel.
Wait, the chairman's pointing out something that I missed.
Okay.
Maybe it's taken care of. Yeah, it says, the city of San Bruno in a negative or embarrassing light. If that happens, the city council may choose to revoke the honor. And I thought I read someplace else where they couldn't.
It does say that in the original policy. It did say that.
Yeah.
And so, same thing.
So that takes care of my problem.
Because of the individual that you mentioned, as well as other individuals that have been in the news even within the last year, these questions have come up. And we can, again, go to the city council on Tuesday night and say that the commission feels that, or the majority of the commissioners feel as though the person, a living person, can receive that honor. However, under certain circumstances, the city may have to withdraw and change the name of the facility, or just not have the facility named after any individual at all.
I'm okay with that.
Through the chair, the only comment I was going to make regarding the character of someone, you can be dead 5 years,
Yeah,
and
that's
someone
true.
can find something out about you
Right.
that was in your past, and your character can be blown.
Right.
So I don't, your
I agree
character
with you.
can change when you're living, or your character can change when you're dead. I don't. That's not going to change my mind
Right.
regarding the character.
Right. Okay, I think, and this is not for a motion anyways, it's for discussion and for input. And I think Randy has a good idea of what we all feel.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
And what I would do is sum up the discussion points to the council, as well as saying, a preponderance of the commissioners felt one way, et cetera, et cetera. Is that fair when I make the presentation there?
Fair.
Okay.
Okay, he's been persistent.
I know, and I'm still not sure if that's just a flying insect or a really small bird, because
He
it's,
needs landing instructions.
amazing,
When he called
yes.
for landing instructions,
Yes.
I was nervous.
Tell them something.
we'll try and see if we can get the screens fixed in the next few days or something. The
Okay, and
last
I think we have one more.
The very last item on this topic, and what we are asking for a motion on, is an amendment to the master fee schedule on the prices. And what I'm hearing is that they should all, and I'm going to try and help a little bit with this one. I'm hearing from the commissioners that all of these should have prices that are included in the master fee schedule. Is that correct?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay? And
That's
that
correct.
the prices for the 4x6 and the 5x7 are fair and should be included,
Laura?
Correct.
Okay.
right?
Lucy?
I'm seeing everybody
Yeah. Okay.
in affirmative there,
Yes.
okay? The only disagreement we're having is the price of the 3x3 reasonable, or is it a little bit too high,
That's me.
And I think you're right.
Yeah.
right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. So what I would ask for motion is on those points from the commissioners, that it be included, that the prices be set, and if you want to take it as separate motions on the 4x6 and the 5x7, and then saved for discussion on the 3x3, we can do it that way, and it might make it a little bit easier.
Okay, and I agree. So,
Good luck.
so what we need is a motion and a second on the pricing for the 4x6 and the 5x7 plaques.
I move to the chair.
Go.
I move that the recommendation of the committee regarding the 4x6 and the,
5x7?
thank you, plaques be accepted and recommended to the city council.
I
Second?
second that.
Okay. Motion, seconded. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Now we have our discussion on the 3x3. And Laura, did you want to start again? I'm sorry, but
Well, I'm not still convinced on the size. I still would like to be able to give feedback after really going to the city and looking at some sizes of different things that I can think of off my offhand. And for the price, I think it's fine.
Commissioner Zamatia?
I think the price is too high. Can't change my mind.
That's fine. Commissioner Nigel?
Well, I was thinking the price was too high, but if it's a family and they're going to honor a grandparent, the family can come up with 400, I think. You know, in terms, I think that's a fair amount, particularly in view of the fact that it costs us $210 minimum.
Can I ask a question? The $210, Randy, is that just for the plaque and not the installation? Because the installation is going to involve some staff time and...
The 210 is when we call up the manufacturer and say, here's the inscription, send it to us.
Okay,
We send them a bill for 210,
Okay.
just for the material.
okay. And so there's going to be additional time. And I assume staff is going to be in mounting these?
City staff can mount these. City staff
And-
mounted the one for the victims of the explosion and fire, and so it would be the same process.
Yeah, okay. And maintain them?
And maintain them.
Okay. Let's go down here, Claudia, on the cost of the 3x...
I still think the price is too high for the 3x3, but if we made it just a little bit bigger, I think the price would be okay.
And Commissioner Lara, the price of the 3x3 plaque at...
I want it bigger myself, but I'll go with 3x3.
Okay, and you heard what I said earlier. I don't have a problem with the price. I think if folks are serious about it, it might be a little high, but if they're serious about it, I believe they'll find ways to come up with the money. So now are you asking for a motion?
I am asking for a motion, and dissension is okay, because we will take the full motion and the feedback to the council. So the motion would be to approve it at a certain dollar value, but at the same time, we would be letting them know that a couple of the commissioners may have felt that it was too high. At least that's the feedback that I'm kind of getting from the discussion.
Okay. Is it appropriate for me to make a motion?
If nobody else.
Okay, if nobody else wants, that's what I thought. I'm asking for a motion and a second then.
Through the chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
I motion that we approve the fee of $400 for the personal tribute.
Yeah, I'm looking for a second. I'm looking for a second on the motion to approve the fee at $400.
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Questions? Once again? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I just want to double check. I heard Lucy say nay.
Nay.
Nay. So it was 4-2. Okay. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate your staying with this item. As I said, it was an extremely complicated item, and I give you a lot of credit for all the homework that you did beforehand, the committee work, and tonight's going through this. So thank you very much, and I think we're done and ready to move on.
Okay.
Can't we go over this again?
One more time, please. Now you can watch it on tape. Okay, we're down to item E on our agenda, communications. I'm not aware of any. Do we have any communications tonight? No communications. Item F, public comment. Generally reserved for my favorite part of the meeting. And there's nobody from the public here, so we have no comments. We're on to item G, new business, an oral report on the summer 2012 recreation programs.
And we're letting Recreation Supervisor Tucker give that report for us.
Okay.
All right. I promise I'll go quickly through this one. And this is light and fun. I'm going to just give you guys a quick recap of our summer aquatics program. Supervisor, my coworker Dee, will be here in springtime doing the summer recap for our summer camp. So this summer, we had another successful and safe aquatics summer. This was my 10th summer supervising the pool here, so it was a special one for me. The first part we'll start with is our staff, which is wonderful and excellent. We had pretty much a summer of, I don't want to say turnover, but it was a lot of new staff this summer for positive reasons. It was a summer where a lot of our staff who had been working with us for many years have graduated college and have moved on to the real world. A lot of our past staff also got internships. So this summer, we had 13 returning staff members and we had 11 new staff, which was exciting and fun, but included a lot of staff training this year. So we did lots of training, which incorporated all the lifeguarding skills, but we also spent a lot of time doing training of swim lessons. I brought in a few aquatic professionals that I know through the field to do some training. We got some training on some water aerobics and some extra stuff that was always just nice to have the staff hear someone else instead of me always talking to them. So yeah, these are some of the pictures from our summer staff training. And then the other highlight, I think, really is the swim lessons this summer. Our numbers were the best numbers we've had in a really long time. We did 6 two-week sessions. One of our 2-week sessions, we had 323 swimmers enrolled, which is the most we've had in the 10 years I've been here. So it was great. I think the weather helped, but I also think it's the population and the reputation that we're starting to gain from the pool. Over the course of the summer, we had 1,500 children go through our swim lesson program, which is about 200 more than last summer. And last summer, we even had an extra session of swim lessons. So we overdid ourselves from last summer with one less session of lessons. So we had great reviews. 99% of the people we surveyed from the swim lessons believed our program was either excellent or good. So that was great. The other part of our swim lesson program that we spent some time on was our water safety aid, which is our volunteers. They're 12 to 15 years old, and they help with our swim lesson programs, similar to the Summer Camp D's program for the leaders in training. It's really a good feeder program where we have the 12 and 13-year-olds who help teach swim lessons. They get excited, they get to know our staff, and then when they turn 15, they're able to enroll in the lifeguard training class and apply for jobs. And then we already know them, they know how our facility works and how swim lessons. So we do spend a lot of time training and working with our water safety aides. And it's a good opportunity for teenagers to get some volunteer hours. Our recreation hours and time, like I said, we had really nice weather for San Bruno this year, which I think helped too. But the pool was always pretty crowded. In the past, we've had days where there was maybe 2 or 3 swimmers out there, and I don't think we had really any of those days this year. So that was great. Our water aerobics program was the most we've seen in years. In the morning swim lesson, this is a picture taken from the morning swim or water aerobics program. We probably averaged about 20 people, which in the past, again, we were getting like 5 or 6 participants. So our numbers have really increased. And then our evening water aerobics is still popular, with usually average of 25 or so. This was a picture of our junior lifeguard camp. This was one of the specialty camps that we offered this summer. Those are the little junior lifeguards sitting below the lifeguard, helping us, quote unquote, helping us lifeguard the pool. But this was one of the summer camps we offered. We also offered 3 weeks of a swim and tennis camp, and 1 week of a swim and basketball camp. And parents really liked that combination where they would do the sport in the morning, either the tennis or basketball, and then they'd spend the afternoon swimming during our recreation time with our lifeguards and counselors. And then I think the next picture, is our lifeguard games competition, which is an annual competition. It's lifeguards from all over the Bay Area. This year it was held in San Ramon. There was 31 teams that participated, and we do events. You compete in CPR events, spinal injury, rescuing people off the bottom of the pool, or mannequins, not real people. But out of 31 teams, San Bruno placed 8th overall, which is pretty good. We did. You usually see a big turnout from the East Bay lifeguards, or over in the East Bay. So San Bruno is one of the only peninsula represented teams, so that's always good to see. And then the last thing I just want to touch on is one of our new special events, which does sort of incorporate the pool. This is the second year we've done a youth triathlon for children 5 to 15. They're broken up in age groups and different dimensions. They swim first at the pool, and then they ride their bikes around the park, city park pathway, and then they run. And I think the next slide has some other pictures of the 3 events. So that was successful. We had 35 participants, which were a few more than last year. The kids have a great time. It's really a fun event. Nobody is a winner. Everyone gets a little certificate at the end, and it's really cute to see the parents cheering on their children competing in it. So we'll definitely be looking to do that event next year, and I expect it to get a little bit bigger as well. So overall, that was my very quick recap of summer 2012, at least at the aquatics facility. But it was a good summer, nice and safe. We had great staff, and because we had so many new staff this year, I'm looking forward to having almost all of them come back next summer. So I think it'll be a really good and successful summer for 2013. And that is all.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to give a quick recap. Dee, like Jenny said, Dee will be here in April with her year-end report, but I just wanted to let you know that this was also camp's most successful summer since camp has begun in 2001. We had our highest numbers ever, as well as adding an 11th week of camp due to the overwhelming need for it for the parents, and that 11th week was also full. So we've had really good success with all of our summer programs, and I think a lot of it is due to also we are doing so many programs in the schools now that the parents are seeing us, realizing who we are, and then coming to us in the summer as well. So we're really getting our name out there.
Well, thanks. I know that a couple of commissioners have comments, but I think I'm going to start at this end, because in the pictures,
We have a celebrity.
comments, Claudia, on
No.
you
It
enjoyed
was-
your summer?
Yeah, it was a good summer, and I'm surprised because we had so many new rookies. I was expecting it to be a failure, but there was a lot of training. There was a lot of help. It was great. It was fun.
Okay, thanks. Well, there was a couple, I mean, and there was also a great slide of the area that's being fixed, by the way. There was a great slide of that. So anyways, Commissioner comments, starting with Commissioner Nigel?
Jenny, I think I can speak for my colleagues on the commission. You're fabulous. Your leadership and your modeling and guiding all these young folks I remember in those competitions, lifeguard competitions, we've done higher than 8th, I think. Didn't we have first one time?
We've gotten first a couple times.
A couple
in
of
certain
times.
events.
And so I think you're being very modest.
Impressive.
And I just want the viewers to know how proud we are. And the rest of the program, if Danielle, you'll convey, I personally know one of the volunteer younger leaders, I forgot what her she was an 8th grader going into 9th, but she learned so much from the program. And when I go down to the restaurant where her grandparents own, she was just telling me about the program. There was so much enthusiasm, and she learned so much, and she was so excited in the fact that they said that not all are invited back, and she was one that was coming back. So thank you for that.
Okay, anyone else? I had one question. Jenny, you had mentioned that you'd gotten some feedback. Do you do some kind of a customer satisfaction survey? Do you send out a questionnaire?
Yeah, at the end of every swim lesson session, we have a survey that they fill out,
Great.
asking them their opinion on the program, and also it's also a help to the instructors, because we ask them what their swim instructors' best traits were
Sure.
and what they could work on, and I think our instructors really use those, because I can sit there and tell them what they're doing that I think they can improve on, but when they hear it from an actual parent, it is very valuable. So I have a big stack of them in my office.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea, by the way, because like you said, in my professional life, I was a supervisor, and sure enough, people got tired of listening to me. So I think that's a great idea, and I think that'll help a lot, for sure. Any other comments?
I'd like to comment, people don't realize how much work the staff is doing, and the marvelous work and the help they give to people that come in, because I've been in the office, and people come in and they're treated real well. I have to comment on the staff, the work they do. And Jenny, if that pool was open, you made it so inviting, I want to jump in it right now.
Especially with the new fencing and grass area.
The polar bear's coming up.
Wow. Wow.
And if I
Okay,
can
anything
just
else,
add
Danielle?
One thing, Commissioner Nigel mentioned that our teams have placed higher in the past. However, just to give you a heads up that the teams that we compete against, for the most part, are coming from year-round pools, and we're a 3-month pool.
Well, that's because
Wow.
of the
So-
East Bay, and it's
Yeah,
that's
so our
it's
kids are pretty darn good.
geographical and climatical. And,
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from our commissioners?
Very impressed, always very impressed. I think the programs just continue to get better and better. It's nice to say you're from San Bruno. It's nice to know that the programs that exist from the playground programs, the swim programs, all the classes. It's a great environment, and I always enjoy driving through the park, slowing down near the crosswalk, but just seeing all the kids in the park. I mean, it's just really good to see so many kids out in programs. I mean, it's great. So I'm so happy. Congratulations, excellent.
Oh, that was very well stated. Okay, anything else? Thanks you, Jenny. Thanks a lot for that. And thanks, Danielle, for your comments, too. Moving on to item H, reports. First of all, from the staff. Do we have any staff reports this evening?
We included right there.
Okay, got it. Okay, perfect. Commissioner reports.
I apologize.
Sorry.
Now, what
Once
are the
again.
viewers going to think?
We just want to make an announcement of a couple special events that we have coming up,
okay.
since our next commission meetings is not until December. We have our big Halloween Goblin Grotto event, which will be put on by our intern Dominic on Tuesday, October 30th, upstairs in the gym. Tickets are available at the Recreation Center. We also have our annual Shops at Tan Fran event that's put on by Project Pride, and that'll be on Halloween Day. And all the flyers for those events have gone through the school district, and they're also available on our website. We also have a haunted house being held at the swimming pool. They're turning it into haunted halls of the bathrooms. And that'll be held on the next Friday, Saturday evening, the 26th and 27th, as well as the same night as Goblin Grotto, October 30th. And you can purchase tickets for the haunted house the day of. And then in November, we have our annual, I think it's the 21st annual Holiday Craft Fair here at the Senior Center. That's on November 24th. And booth spaces are all sold out, but the admission for that event is free. And then our annual holiday tree lighting event will be on Thursday, December 6th at 5:30 in front of the Recreation Center. So we'll hope to see you guys all there.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, any commissioner reports this evening? Commissioner Nigel?
The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee was established by the City Council in 2002. The makeup originally, at that time, was 4 delegates at large, regular committee members, 1 representative from the Planning Commission, 1 from the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee, and 1 from the Parks and Rec. I've been honored to serve in that capacity since the inception of that committee. We are working on our goals, such as, and kind of really recreation related, trying to organize 2 major events, a bicycle rodeo featuring safety and things of that nature, and bicycle repair. And the second one, well, Miriam, who's doing all our tech work right now, has worked on our public safety announcements. We've had every child should wear a helmet, at the crosswalks, stop, look, and wave, and we're working on another one at the current time. What was happening, our committee was having attendance problems, and so the person from the traffic retired, and nobody ever replaced her. And so we were always fighting to have a quorum for our meetings. And then the planning commissioner decided he would like to retire from the committee. So I'm the only one that's left with the original format. So this year, the city council changed the makeup of the committee. All of us are now committee members at large, although I am still representing our commission there. And when I leave the committee, that position will no longer exist, and it'll go to a delegate at large position. So we are working on all these things that I mentioned, our goals, just like we do in Parks and Rec. And due to budget constraints, and this is a sore point with me, but I realized the city's situation, we are only having committee meetings once every other month. And that's because we lost a staff member and we're down to 1. And so that's what it is. But we're forming little committees and working in between and trying to accomplish our goals. So that committee is thriving, and as long as I'm still there representing us, I will continue to give updates.
Thank you. Any other commission reports? Our meeting is adjourned.
Beautiful.